All right. Welcome to another episode of Vintage Talking Vikings History. On this week's show, we are doing first round draft picks, whether they were Hall of Famer, whether they're in the Ring of Honor, whether they made any kind of significance to the team, or if they were just a flat out bust.
Skull Vikings, let's win this game. Skull Vikings, honor your name. Go get that first down, then get a touchdown. Rock 'em, sock 'em, fight, 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 fight. Go Vikings, run out the score. You'll hear us yell for more. Vikings, Skull Vikings, let's go.
All right. So, this was a topic that was brought to us by one of our viewers, Sarah. This is an idea she gave us. So, this does prove that we do listen to you guys and we do your ideas. So, this is not necessarily number one picks, but this is just guys who were picked in the first round. So, let's start. We'll start with the first year. So, the first overall pick happened to be the number one pick was Tommy Mason, a running back out of Tulane, and looks like he made himself some Pro Bowls.
Early on, he was a starter up until he had a knee injury. I think he suffered it in 65 or 66. Then Dave Osborne took his spot, but back then the knee surgeries, the medicine wasn't as good as it is now. So usually once you had a knee injury and you were a running back, you were basically done. So he was with us from 61 to 66. And then we traded him to the Rams in 67, which he played about 12 or 13 years in the NFL. He went to the Rams, and then I believe he went to the Redskins with George Allen in 71. So he played 11, 12 years in the league. So
let's see. See. He did. He didn't announce his retirement until 1973.
Okay, so then he must. I think he played in that Super Bowl with the Redskins.
Right. So he rushed for 3,500 yards, scored 28 touchdowns. 67, he was signed by the Rams.
Yep.
He played for the Rams for 4 years, but accumulated only 4 touchdowns and less than 900 yards. He finished his career with the Redskins in 71.
Yeah. He once he got the knee injury, he was basically just a backup. And the Rams at the time had a couple of good backs that were ahead of him. So yeah. But he when he was here, he was good. He was our first breakaway back.
Makes you wonder if he would have never gotten hurt.
Yeah, how good he would have been.
Yeah.
How good he would have been, So yeah, so he was for when he got here, he was a good pick. And that was an age where the NFL ran the ball, so he was perfect. It was him and Bill Brown in the backfield.
Well, he according to this, he's ninth in both touchdowns and rushing yards for Minnesota.
Yep. You mean all time?
That's what it says here. Yeah.
Okay.
So
that sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds.
Well, I mean, because when you look at the Vikings draft history for first round picks, they have drafted running backs in the first round more than any other position. They have drafted running back. I believe it's 20 times.
Mm-hmm.
They have drafted a running back in the first round. So that's by far and away the next closest position. 10 running backs, 9 defensive backs, 9 defensive ends, and 9 tackles. They've only drafted a quarterback 4 times, 1 guard, and 1 center.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in Southern California, 6 players. Michigan State second with 4.
Okay. Yeah, we had a lot of USC players at that time. At one time.
Yeah.
We got a lot of USC players.
So 62, there was no pick.
Nope. 62 was no pick.
So the next pick was Jim Dunaway.
In 63. Now,
Yeah.
Dunaway never played it down with the Vikings. He signed with the AFL. I believe he played with the Buffalo Bills.
Yes.
The number 2 draft pick for the Vikings was Bobby Bell, who also didn't sign with the Vikings. He signed with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he had a Hall of Fame career with them. So we had lost both our top 2 picks in 63.
Yes. Yeah. But he was actually charged with murder.
Which Jim Dunaway?
Yeah, it says let's see, on 1990, his ex-wife was found dead. Dunaway was charged with her murder, but a grand jury chose not to indict Dunaway of the charges in response. His children filed a wrongful death lawsuit alleging Dunaway was responsible for the mother's death.
God, he must have. What year was it?
1998. His wife was found dead.
He was in his 50s, 60s.
Well, he was born in 41, so that'd be 57.
Yeah, so you could have used the CTE angle for that one too.
Probably.
Yeah.
He played from the Bills from 63 to 71, the Dolphins for 1 year. Then he played for the Jacksonville Sharks and the Jacksonville Express. Was that
the World League? Yeah, that's the World League.
Yeah, 74 and 75. So he couldn't be classified as a bust because he never played, right?
He's just he didn't do anything. He didn't play for us. So he didn't play for us. He didn't even sign with us. So he doesn't even count, to be honest.
And he was out of Ole Miss. Now this next guy, he is a Hall of Famer. Not only is he a Hall of Famer, but he was also a Supreme Court judge. And we're talking about Mr. Carl Eller.
No, Alan Page is a Supreme Court judge.
Oh, that's right. God dang it. I'm sorry, guys. Brain fart. Brain collapse.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said that, but
yeah, Carl Eller, basically, he wasn't born here, but he came here from the South, went to the Gophers, played on the national championship team, stayed in town. Vikings drafted him, and the rest is history. I mean, him and Jim Marshall were the bookends for that Viking front four and the catalyst for the Purple People Eaters for 15 years? They played together?
He played, let's see,
64 to 78 with the Vikings, and then 79 with the Seahawks.
With the Seahawks, which is really weird. Yeah, he was born in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Well, he ended up. What happened was with Carl, he held out in 78, and he had a press conference, and he said the teams that he would play for. One of the teams was Seattle because former line coach Jack Patera was the head coach. And they were always close. So he if he was going to play somewhere, he would have went to Seattle. And they traded him in 79 for we got Steve Niehaus in return. Niehaus didn't do anything. But Carl for years was the barometer for that defense. He was I guess you could say he was kind of the leader.
Yeah.
But the captain was Jim, but the one that kind of got everybody up for the games and stuff was probably Carl, and teammates loved him. All pro, all NFL, Hall of Famer, on all 4 Super Bowl teams, a whole hell of a lot. He is the it's official as they go, but he is the sack leader in Viking history for most quarterback sacks.
Yes. It's actually listed on here. When they went back and counted all the sacks.
Yeah.
He has 130 and a half with the Vikings, and he has 133 in his career because he had 3 for Seattle.
Yeah.
And he was also NFL champion in 69, defensive player of the year in 71.
Yep.
5-time first team All Pro,
Yep.
2-time All Pro selection, 6-time Pro Bowler. NFL sack co-leader in 69, all decades team. He's in the Ring of Honor, of course. He's one of the 50 greatest Vikings, 25th anniversary team, 40th team. And then in the college, he was a national champion in 60, He was a consensus All-American, first team All Big Ten, second team All Big Ten, and Rose Bowl champion. So he definitely, and he was a Pro Football Hall of Fame. So he definitely was the first of the great of the Hall of Famers that the Vikings drafted in the first round. So far of the draft picks they've had in the first round, what's up, Skolden? Of all the picks they've had in the first round, he is by far and away the best one so far.
Yep.
Now, Tommy Mason's career, we don't know what that would have been if he didn't get hurt, but he got hurt, so it's hard to say with Mason's career.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know why I was confusing him with Alan Page with that, but so the next couple of picks, I don't know how good they really were.
Well, 65 was Jack Snow.
Yes, 65.
Okay, Jack Snow never played it down.
Out of Notre Dame.
He never played it down in He went to Notre Dame. He never played it down with the Vikings. Matter of fact, he was traded. We traded him to the Rams, which was his hometown. We got a return wide receiver, Hal Bedsole, and we also got a defensive tackle, a backup defensive tackle by the name of Gary Larson. So Larson was part of that trade. So after it evened out, especially with what Larson did for us. Snow spent all his years with the Rams up until I think he retired in, I want to say after the 75 season. He was not with the Rams in 76. So
it says until 74, 75 with the Rams.
Right.
Was his last year.
Right.
He was an actor and he played in Bewitched.
Yeah, he had been in a few TV shows and movies too.
Yeah.
But he was in LA. So
yeah.
That's what was gonna happen.
And for you baseball fans out there, he's the father of JT Snow.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, and he died of a staph infection in 2005.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when it happened.
Which is that's the same thing my brother passed away from.
Yep.
So,
and so he never played it down with us, but his trade did help.
Yeah.
That did help. 66 was Jerry Shea.
Out of Purdue.
Right. Only played with us a year. Nothing. I don't even know if he even saw the field.
I don't think he does not look like he was very good because he was drafted in 66. He played only until 71.
Right. I want to say he might have went to Atlanta and played.
Yeah, he played Atlanta, then he ended his career in the Giants.
Okay. All right. That's right. So he didn't do anything with us. And that was Van Brocklin's last draft with the Vikings. Bud was here by 67. And then 67, Bud had 3 number 1 draft picks. The first was Clint Jones, running back from Michigan State.
Yep.
The second was Gene Washington, wide receiver from Michigan State. And the third one was Alan Page.
Yes.
Now, Alan played defensive end at Notre Dame. He was a defensive end. And when he got here, we moved him to defensive tackle because we already had Marshall and Eller.
Yeah.
Page, what can you say? What can be said about him? One of the greatest, if not the greatest, Viking ever. The man revolutionized the defensive tackle position and how it's played. In an era where you had Merlin Olsen, you had Joe Green, you had others. Allen was right there with them. Teams had the game plan to defend Allen. And
Jones was the Tarkenton pick.
Yes, Jones was the Tarkenton pick. And Clint was good. Clint was he had the longest run in team history for about 30 years up until I believe Michael Bennett broke it, which Clint had
he played for the Vikings from 67 to 72.
Yeah, primarily he was a kick returner, but he did play some in the offense. He led the league. He led us in rushing one year. I think it was 71. He led us in rushing.
1971, he had 180 carries,
Right. He had like 675 yards
Yeah.
or something like that.
675 yards, 100 carries, and doesn't say how many touchdowns, but
Right. But he was known to break
he had
off
20
long runs.
he had 20 NFL. He had 20 rushing touchdowns total,
Mm-hmm.
and he had 38 38 receptions. That's what it
Okay.
says here.
And he what happened, I believe it was I think it was 72. Clint, Gene Washington, and Charlie West all held out together as a package deal, and basically saying the Vikings couldn't win without him unless they signed them all. And within a year or two, they were all gone. So he was serviceable, put it that way. Gene Washington could have been he was Joe Cap's favorite target. He had that speed, but injuries did him in. Now, there were two Gene Washingtons playing in the NFL at the same time. One played with the Minnesota Vikings. The other played with the San Francisco 49ers. And they were both all pros. So, but our Gene Washington only played until, I believe, 74 or 75. I know he played in Denver for a year.
He played with the Vikings from 67 to 72.
Yep.
And it says here his last year was 73 with the Broncos.
Yep, 73. So, and he had the same problem as Clint Jones, knee injuries. Injuries is what did him in also. So, but that draft was good. It helped build the team. It was the building blocks of what was to become those teams that were championed that in the 70s were our Super Bowl team. It was building blocks to it.
Yeah. And then Alan Page, we could probably spend a whole show on him.
Oh, as far as I'm concerned, he's the GOAT.
So he was a Hall of Fame pick, first round.
Yep.
They followed that up with another Hall of Fame pick in 68, sorry. From Southern Cal.
Ron Yeri.
Our only ever second number one pick. We've only ever had two.
Right.
They both happened in the 60s. The first one was Mason, and Ron Yeri was the second one.
Yep. And he Ron became a starter in 69. And as they say, the rest is history. Never missed a game. He was a starter from 69 to 81 with the Vikings.
Yep.
And then
82 with the Rams.
82 with the Rams. That was because the Vikings, he didn't want to play with. He wanted to stay home. And plus,
Which makes sense.
He had a sour relationship with Mike Lynn, who didn't, because the guy was a jerk. And we traded him to the Rams, and it was the end of his career. But I don't remember him ever missing a game. At least in my lifetime, he was always a starter. Never missed a game.
Let me see. He was also he missed his first 3 games because he had military duty.
Yeah. Oh, in 68?
See, Ron Yeri won the starting right tackle job. Military duty cost him to miss his first 3 games in his second season.
That was 69. Yeah, that was 69.
And then he remained the starter at that position for the rest of the time he was with Minnesota.
Yeah, because at that time, at least, Bud had the luxury between Doug Davis, who was already the starting right tackle, and Ron Yeri. But Yeri's was younger and stronger. And then with that happened, you put Doug Davis in, and you really don't miss a beat.
So there was a gap from 68 until 1997 with tackles being drafted first overall. Orlando Pace was the next tackle taken after him.
Yep.
So it looks like if you take a tackle number 1, it looks like they're pretty good.
It's
Orlando Pace was another great one. I know he's not a Viking, but he was another great one.
Yeah, he was Ohio State.
Yeah.
So 69, we didn't have a number 1, but our top pick that year was Ed White, who ended up being an All-Pro. and a starter. Played 17 years in the league. Good guy. I know him personally, but he was the number 2 draft pick in '69. We didn't have a number 1 draft pick in '69.
Yeah, so he played in 7. He played in 7 consecutive Pro Bowls. He was a first team All Pro 6 consecutive seasons. He was a second team the year before he became 6 consecutive first teams, and then the year after his 6-year run, he was also second team. So he was first or second team All Pro in 8 consecutive seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And he, through the 70s, he was the guy who pretty much protected Tarkenton, and he also all that running game that we had in the 70s. He was a big part of that. Ring of Honor in 2000, obviously, and then a member of the Hall of Fame in 2001.
Right. So Yuri was kind of the standard for offensive line play for the Vikings. So that was 68, and then like I said, 69 we didn't have a number 1 draft choice, but it was Ed White was number 2. Started for years, and go ahead.
1970. These next 2 guys, they don't have any special achievements, it looks like. But 1970, the number 25 pick overall was John Ward from Oklahoma State.
John Henry Ward. He was a defensive end. Very good player, very athletic. Bud Grant.
They have him listed as a tackle.
Well, here's what happened. Bud, first of all, you're a good defensive lineman, but you're playing behind the Purple People Eaters, so you're kind of like never going to see the field,
right?
And Bud Grant was like, this guy was too good of a player to have on the sideline, so Bud moved him to also play offense. So
he
played guard and tackle.
How many people can say they've done this in the NFL? Center, defensive end, and guard from 70 to 76.
Yeah, he got this starting gig. Well, the offensive line got older too. Milt Sunday was getting older, so technically, in those 2 years there, Jim Valone had contracted Hodgkin's disease, so that ended his career, and he left us in '77. And then Milt Sunday was getting up there in age, so the guy that they worked with, John Ward, and Ward was starting. Ward was a starting guard in the '73 season until he broke his leg, and he played on special teams. And he was with us till '75, and then in '76, Ward was an expansion pick by Tampa Bay. So, and I think he finished his career with the Bears because I think Jim Finks brought him there. But yeah.
Although, well, it looks like he played for the Bears and on the Bucks in '76.
Okay, yeah. So that makes sense. So yeah, he was basically he was nothing. He could play multiple positions, but with the team we had at that time, him getting on the field, his only spot to get on the field was guard, and he was a starter, and then he got hurt.
And so the next pick was a running back
from Ohio State.
Leofus Hayden Sr. or Leo Hayden.
Leo Hayden never played a down with the Minnesota Vikings. Never saw the field with the Minnesota Vikings. He was at Ohio State, and Ohio State had the backfield at that time. The quarterback was Rex Kern, who ended up playing safety with the Colts. You had Hayden at halfback. The fullback was John Brockington, who went to the Green Bay Packers and put up like 2,000 or 3,000 yard seasons. And Leo Hayden never saw the field.
So in his career, 8 rushing attempts for 11 yards, 1 touchdown. He had 1 reception for 17 yards.
And I think that was all with the Cardinals.
It was all with the Cardinals. He played 2 years with the Cardinals. He played 1 year with the Chicago Fire. He basically said that As a rookie, he played special teams. He did not have a single rushing attempt. And he says his career was derailed from drug use. He says it's hard to get on the field when you're a junkie.
Yeah, I did read an article on that.
Yeah.
I did read an article on that.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah, but he was a bust with the Vikings. This is 71, and he was a bust. He was a bust.
So yeah, that was. It's weird that you would think. I mean, I know they don't have the research and stuff they have now, but like, was that a bug pick? Was that a Max Winter pick? Was that who made that pick for Leo?
It's probably Finks.
So this next guy, he's not in the Hall of Fame. He should be, but the number 10 overall pick in 1970 from Stanford.
72?
72, yeah. The number 10 pick from 72 is Jeff Simeon.
Middle linebacker Jeff Seaman. He came in. He was a rookie from Stanford. By the way, he's in the College Football Hall of Fame. He took over for Lonnie Warwick, Lonnie Warwick had a couple of years there where he was constantly hurt and he was older. So Jeff Seaman stepped in and took his job and never gave it up. That was in the Green Bay game of 72. He took over and had the job up until, Jeff stayed with us until 81, and then we traded him to San Diego after 81. But here's what happened. In 82 preseason, he was with the Chargers. The Chargers released him on a final cut down date. The Vikings re-signed him, so he actually ended his career as a Viking. So at the time with San Diego doesn't even register. But here he went to like 4 or 5 Pro Bowls. He played he was the signal caller for that defense. And he was a very good, very steady linebacker, very good against the run. I always liked him. And then when the Vikings moved to a 3-4, him and Scott Studwell played side by side in the inside linebackers. But he was very good.
He went to 4 Pro Bowls.
4 Pro Bowls? Okay.
Yeah, he was cut by Don Coryell and cleared off waivers to back up Scott Studwell.
Yep.
It looks like he retired in 80. It looks like 82 is when he retired because of the strike.
Well, he played the strike year. Matter of fact, that Monday night game that we played against Dallas, he started. He was Studwell didn't play because Studwell had a broken hand or something like that.
Yeah.
And so that was the last game that Jeff Seaman ever started. And then 83, during the off season, he retired. He'd been in the league 11 years. So
yeah, 72 to 82. He had 11 interceptions, 100 yards, 104 yards. He had 11 fumble recoveries, and he had 7 sacks.
Yep.
So yeah, he is in the college. He is in the College Hall of Fame.
Yep.
I mean, he was steady. He was. I mean.
Oh, he was.
He was more than steady, but
yeah, at that time you had, he was kind of. People didn't talk about him a lot because he wasn't flashy. He wasn't Dick Butkus. He wasn't a Nishke or a Lambert or even a Willie Lanier or a Bonacani, but quietly he was very good. And he did the NFL. I mean, the players all recognized him.
Yeah. And he was also the pick that we used on him was the pick that we got from Joe Cap.
Yep. That was part of the Joe Cap trade. So we ended up with Jeff Seaman.
Okay. And this, we all know who the next pick is, y'all. From the University of Miami, down in Florida, the number 1973 and the number 12 overall pick, Mr. Spin Doctor himself,
Walter Eugene Chuck Foreman.
Yep.
He I'm just gonna put it. He's with all due respect to AP and Robert Smith, Chuck Foreman is the greatest all-around back we ever had. The guy could do it all. Chuck Foreman changed the identity of this football team. The Vikings before the Vikings got Chuck, there was like 2 years there where they couldn't run the football at all. 3 years. They couldn't run the football. You get Chuck Foreman, that all changes. But the one thing that Chuck changed the most was in the passing game. Fran couldn't throw the deep ball like he used to, but the 5 and 10 yard mid range passes, perfect for him. So him throwing passes to Chuck Foreman and letting Chuck use his athletic ability to get extra yards, that was like we got. Jerry Burns even said it. Burns is like, I got something here with this guy. This kid is something special. He opened up that Viking offense, literally opened it up. Bud Grant even said it. They interviewed him when he went into the Hall of Fame. They brought up Chuck Foreman. Bud said, we used him too much, which they did. Bud took Chuck took a beating by 77. In 78, he was just wore down. But between
he had 100,
yeah,
199 and 74, 280.
Yeah.
And 75, 278 and 76, 270, 77 and 78 was 237. He had 1,000 yards and 75, 1155 and 76, 1112 and 77. But he also had, along with his 280 rushes and 75, he had 73 receptions. 76, he had 55. 77, he had 38 receptions. So he had 13 rushing touchdowns and 9 reception touchdowns in 1975.
Yep.
So he has the most receiving touchdowns. Still, the only person who tied him was Marshall Faulk. And he has the most rushing games with a receiving and rushing touchdown in the season 5. He still holds that record.
Yeah.
He also has, for the Minnesota Vikings franchise record, he has the most total touchdowns in the season, 22. The most receiving touchdowns by a running back. He tied him and Bill Brown. Most consecutive seasons with at least one receiving and one rushing touchdown, 6. He tied that with Ted Brown. Playoff rushes, career 229 career rushes, 860 yards. He had 7 touchdowns in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So he is Vikings immortality.
Oh, he's the man. He's the man. I don't think you can say enough about the guy. He's a good guy too. I talk to him every now and then. He, with his style that he played football, he actually put the Vikings on the map. We had, for years, the defense were like the vocal point of the Vikings. The defense was still there, but now all of a sudden you've got Tarkenton and Foreman, and then on the outside you've got Gilliam, and you still had Rashad and Sammy White later. That put a new dynamic to this Viking team. And Chuck Foreman was a big part of it. Now, Chuck was a fullback, by the way. He was a fullback. A lot of people thought he was a halfback. No, Chuck was a fullback. When the Vikings did the depth chart, they just said running backs, 2 running backs. Yeah. But technically, Chuck was a fullback. He was a fullback. And he did play wide receiver at Miami. So him catching the ball out of the backfield was second nature to him.
Yeah. A lot of these guys have like a short college football synopsis. Yeah. His is pretty long for college football.
Yeah, and at that time, Miami was not that good.
Yeah,
they were not a very good team. They weren't the Miami U that they are now or have been in the past. They were actually pretty bad.
Yeah, let's see, from the position he actually started his football career as a defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he began the spin move. After Earl Monroe is when he started doing the spin move.
Earl the Pearl. He used to imagine himself on the football field like Earl the Pearl on the basketball court. That was his guy. And so, because you ever notice Chuck Hatton's bugged the hell out of me and my dad. He carried the football out there with one hand, just kind of held it out there, and he would make moves, and it's kind of like put the ball away, tuck the ball.
Yeah.
He had a lot of fumbles that way too, and that's because players just knocked it out of his hand.
Yeah. So he played defensive back and running back in college before they made him switch to only offense.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and like I said, Miami was just
yeah, they were not very good back then.
They were never that good. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can make a team like Miami that wasn't very good, and you got good numbers there,
Mm-hmm.
and that's saying something, but he's a GOAT, man. I think the Vikings should retire at 44, but they probably won't. But he's blue, so he is in I think that's the Vikings Ring of Honor.
He's in the Vikings Ring of Honor. He should be considered for the Hall of Fame. He had Hall of Fame numbers. He had the same Hall of Fame numbers as Floyd Little.
Well, aren't his numbers pretty much the same as Gale Sayers?
Yeah, damn near, except he's got better receiving numbers.
Yeah.
So that should get him in right there. I mean, the man led the league in you lead the league in receiving, and you're a running back. One of the things he got to always do is catch the ball. So he was always up there in the league leaders, whether it be scoring, receiving, or rushing during his time with the Vikings. So,
yeah. So then the next year, they had 2 picks in 74.
Okay.
The number 17 pick and the number 25 pick. They took a linebacker from UCLA, Fred McNeil,
mm-hmm.
and they took a tackle from Southern Cal, Steve Riley.
Both were starters for years. They never played in any Pro Bowls or anything like that, but they were those starters that they took over for the older guys, and they played here for years themselves. Both are unfortunately no longer with us. Matter of fact, the top 3 picks from that draft for the Vikings are no longer with us: Riley, McNeil, and Matt Blair.
Yeah.
He
died young. He was only 63 when he passed.
Yeah, CTE. He has CTE. I saw a report on him just before his passing. His memory was completely gone. And Scott Studwell and Matt Blair went to visit him in California. That's where he spent the rest of his time. And but he was here. He was a good player. He was a good linebacker. Steady. He was when the Vikings were in. He took over for, I believe, Wally Hilgenberg, and then Steve Riley became a starter in '76, and he played until he retired in preseason of '85.
Yeah, it says he was one of the 345 players diagnosed with CTE. Actually, He did the exam after his death.
Yeah.
He also had Lou Gehrig's disease as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that he had ALS also, and
yeah.
I think they say ALS was the cause of death.
And he only played for the Vikings from 74 to 85.
Yep. And here now in McNeil in '85, actually McNeil was a final cut down by Bud. He had let a bunch of those key veterans go when he came back for the younger guys. But what happened was Matt Blair got hurt in the season opener against the 49ers. And so Bud re-signed McNeil to take over for Blair up until I think we cut Fred again, probably like the 10th or 11th week of the season when Matt came back. But yeah, he stayed a Viking. And he had his game. I think he missed a couple of games. Riley missed a whole year. And I believe it was 1978. He had a really bad neck injury. And I think he had to have surgery. And it was one of those neck injuries where the next year, once he put his helmet on, he couldn't take it off. It had to stay on. So literally when the team was doing the national anthem, Riley couldn't be out there because he couldn't take his helmet off. Once it was on, it was on. And I think that was like for maybe a year or two.
Yeah. I don't know if it does say he played it does say in his last year, he played every game
Yep.
with his left hand in a cast because of a broken thumb.
Yeah, he was. And this was during the Les Stecco years. He was normally a left tackle. Well, Stecco did this idea to switch him and Tim Irwin, so he moved Riley to right tackle, Irwin to left tackle, with disastrous results.
Yeah.
And he came back, and they were all happy when Bud came back. But I think when the training camp rolled around, he just couldn't do it anymore, and he retired. So.
Yes, it says he took over the starting left tackle position in '76.
Yep.
And started every game until 1978 when a neck injury put him on injured reserve for 11 games.
Yep.
When he returned to full-time duty in '79, he started every game for the next 5 seasons.
Yep. Yeah, he was very dependable. Very dependable. Most of the offensive linemen were. And I kind of credit that to Coach John Michaels, the O-line coach. He was one of the best. He got a lot out of his guys.
Yeah, he was in the movie North Dallas 40 as well.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
Yeah. So even though he wasn't in any Pro Bowls or anything, he definitely was not a bust. So far the Vikings really haven't had too many busts.
No, just Leo Hayden.
Yeah, Leo Hayden so far.
Yep.
So 75, they had one pick, was number 25 overall.
Mm-hmm.
Took a defensive end out of Colorado State. Was it Mark Mulaney?
Mark Mulaney.
Mark Mulaney. Okay.
Another stayed with the team for years. Didn't make a lot of Pro Bowls or anything like that, but he was serviceable. He played behind both Eller and Marshall.
Yep, he played 151 games. He started 97 of them. He had 45 and a half sacks.
Yep. He was a tall guy, 6'6", maybe 245, 250. He didn't look like a football player, but he was tall. Towards the end of his career, the injuries kicked in. Mark Mulaney was the first player to wear a visor. He was the first player because he got poked in the eye in '84 against Atlanta. And when that happened, I think it was Stosh Newman and
it says it.
Zamberletti that designed the visor.
It actually says it right here. It says Mulaney also holds a place in NFL history as the first NFL player to wear a helmet shield visor on his face mask after suffering an eye injury at 84. In 86, he switched to a dark shield. Was the first player to do this as well.
Yep.
Dennis Ryan, the Vikings' longtime equipment manager, helped Mulaney create the shield.
Yeah, and he was with the team up until '87. And then quietly, we released him in off season of '88. So he was with us.
Yeah, he was with us from '75 to '87. So
yeah, he was serviceable. I mean, he missed a lot of time in the later years. But actually, I want to say Mark Mulaney is the one that people give credit to for helping turn Chris Dolman into a defensive end, because Chris Dolman was a linebacker, and Mulaney worked with him to play defensive end, and they give Mulaney kind of that credit for helping Dolman become the defensive end that he became.
School Bob, what up?
Yeah,
Appreciate
Bob.
everybody being here. Sorry, I'm doing two things at once, guys. I'm looking at the draft picks history, doing all that, plus trying to go back and forth. So if I'm missing some of your chats, I'm sorry, but I appreciate every one of y'all being here. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, so we can. We really want to get this show taken off, because this is a show like no other. There is no other show like this on YouTube or anywhere. So there's no podcast. There's nothing for Vikings history like this. So we really want to get this show going. So 76, also the 25th pick, defensive tackle from Oklahoma State. They took James Duck White, I think.
Yeah,
James Duck White. Yep.
Duck was going to be, and now keep in mind, Mulaney and Duck were both drafted as replacements for Eller, Page, and Marshall. What happened was Duck played a lot his first 2 years. He got a lot of snaps. but he became full time when the Vikings released Alan Page in '78. He was serviceable. I mean, he was dependable.
76 to 83,
Mhm.
26 sacks. That's not.
Yep.
I mean, that's not bad. That's not a bad. It's not a great career, but it's not bad either.
But here's the thing, though. This is what we got to keep in mind with sacks prior to 1982, when it became an official sack, when it became an official stat, individual sacks. Up
Right.
until then, you really didn't. They were inaccurate.
I think the site that I'm looking at, I think they had the calculations for the people who went back in history.
Oh, is that Pro Football Reference?
No, it's Wikipedia, but they do use, as you know, Wikipedia uses a bunch of different references. So they're saying that the sack totals came from a different reference.
Yeah, and so it fluctuates every now and
Yeah.
then. I see in the chat here from Bob Swede, why did the Vikings release Alan Page? One of the reasons was Alan Page and Bud Grant had a falling out. They were not getting along at all, and a lot of it had to do with Alan's weight loss. And Alan had started running, and so Alan had went from 245 to his All-Pro years. Allen was down to 221, 222 when the Vikings released him. And Bud said that was too light to play defensive end. And Allen also said they changed the defensive scheme on him also. So it was basically Bud and Allen not getting along, and that led to him being basically cut. Let Allen tell it, he was fired. So
Yeah. Let me see.
but when Allen got released, Duck White replaced him. And Duck held it down up until probably when the Vikings went to a 3-4 defense, and Duck played nose tackle in 81. But then when they traded for Charlie Johnson in 82, Duck was relegated to just passing downs. So, and then he was released by Les Steckel. He was one of the final cuts in 84. He had moved to defensive end. He played defensive end in preseason, and Steckel cut him. So,
Yeah, you like to be able to play their whole career with one team, but
Yeah.
even back then, it didn't happen.
yeah, and it was weird because with Bud, a lot of players did finish their career as Vikings, and they could retire as Vikings, but that's a bygone era. You'll never see that unless you are a big name star.
Yeah. Which, hopefully, that there are some players, I mean, who do play their whole career, but I think that's a lot of time that's the player's choice. They'll take less money to stay with that team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've already got a home here. If they've got a home
Yeah.
in that city and they're already established in that city, they're going to want to stay.
Yeah.
So
this next guy, everybody loves this guy.
Oh, God.
1977, the number 27 pick, one of the only four Vikings, only one of the four quarterbacks the Vikings have ever taken in the first round out of Rice University. We all know and love this guy, Mr. Touchdown Tommy.
2-minute Tommy. Put it this way, Tommy Kramer was one of those quarterbacks. He could throw 5 interceptions in a game and only throw 2 touchdowns, but one of them touchdowns would be the game winner.
Yeah.
It would. Tommy Kramer you always felt with Tommy Kramer as a quarterback, you were always in the game. Unless it was a blowout, even if it was a blowout, Tommy was going to bring you back. He gave you that hope. And that also, when he came in 77 against the Niners, and the Niners were just beating our asses that day too. And he came in and he brings us back. All of a sudden, we're looking at the future as Viking fans. It's like, we're going to be okay with this kid. Till he played the Raiders the next week and got his ass kicked. But,
Yeah.
But he was, excuse me, the heir apparent to Fran Tarkington. And then 78, Tommy did see spot duty every now and then. but when he suffered that concussion on a sack from Jim Youngblood in '78, which was just, when you think about it, was just at the time pretty horrific. That shut him down for the rest of the year, but he was a starter in '79, and Bud was going to roll with him. Bud was going to roll with him, and Tommy, I'll tell you what, Tommy put the Vikings in that era where the team started to throw more. Probably the only team that threw more than the Chargers was probably the Vikings. That was probably the Vikings because, and I think in '81 with that game we played against the Chargers in '81, that kind of proved it right there. But Tommy was that gunslinger, that old school gunslinger, and he had some. He was a leader. Some say he played his base football drunk or hungover. I don't know, but and then he hurt his knee in '84. He had injuries in '85. He went to the Pro Bowl in '86, and then the rest of his time he was splitting with Wade Wilson. But he didn't stay a Viking either. He ended up going to the Saints.
Yeah, 1980.
1990. He actually played for the Saints against us in '90.
Oh, I just glanced at it. Yeah, 1990. Yeah, he was from '77 to '89.
Yeah,
he was a Viking.
I just remembered something. I got to rewind back to Steve Riley. Okay. Steve Riley played his whole career with the Vikings, but Riley during the offseason in 1980 had been traded to the Saints for a draft pick. But Riley failed his physical, so he ended up reverting back to the Vikings. But he had been traded. That was the offseason that Mike Lynn purged a lot of ex-Vikings. He traded Riley, but we got him back. But he also traded Foreman that same offseason to the Patriots in 1980.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything about the draft, but the trade with Riley. But yeah, Tommy Kramer says someone who lives in San Antonio, where I currently live. Even though he wasn't a Cowboy, he is well liked in this area. His high school is about 10 minutes from my house right now. He went to Robert E. Lee High School.
Mm-hmm.
He led them to the state championship. I don't think they've won the championship since he left. But yeah, he was a comeback player of the year in '86, second team All-Pro in '86, Pro Bowl in '86. NFL rated. He was the passer rater in '86.
Yeah.
He won Rookie of the Year in '77. He's one of the 50 all-time greatest Vikings. And he won the Sammy Baugh Trophy in college in '76. So,
and I want to bring up a note about '86. He was having that record-breaking year in '86. What happened was we played the Giants, and Tommy went back to pass. Lawrence Taylor came in on a blitz. Well, what happened was Tommy Kramer's throwing hand hit Lawrence's helmet, and Tommy missed like the next 2 or 3 games because of the hand.
Yeah, he played 13 games that year.
Yep. Yeah.
So his record was 7-6. He had 208 completions of 372 attempts, 55.9 completion percentage. He had 3,000 yards. He averaged 8.1 yards on average, but he had 24 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. He had a long of 79, and his QB rating was 92.6.
What was his longest pass?
They said 76 yards was his long.
That was to Anthony Carter against the Bears, I believe.
But
no. That was Leo Lewis in Washington. That's the game. Tommy threw for 490 yards in that game. We lost it in overtime thanks to the refs. But he
sounds like a theme.
Yeah, he threw for 490 yards that game. He outpassed Jay Schrader for the Redskins.
Oh, Jay Schrader guy. We talk about a bust.
Yeah, he outpassed Jay Schrader.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not going to read his Wikipedia because it's like a novel.
Here. God, yeah.
Yeah, it says. Let me see. Miracle. He was a miracle at the Met. Let's see. Wade Wilson. I think was it Kramer split time with Wade Wilson.
Yeah, up until from 84 to his time that he was released to 89, they split time.
Yeah, that was towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, mop up duty in San Francisco loss. He went 9 of 19 for 110 yards and an interception, and a 41 to 13 loss. He was released after the season.
Yep.
He only appeared in one game for the Saints against Minnesota.
Against Minnesota, yeah. Again, that was the only game he played in.
Yeah. So we all love Tommy, man. He's an all-time great, man. There's no one. There will never be another Tommy Kramer. He's a one of them. He's his own. He's in his own category by himself.
Yep.
So I mean, that was around the time that a lot of people remember is the Tommy Kramer era and that type. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bob. We're going in. We're not necessarily doing players. We're doing first round picks. Is what we're doing. So we're not like how you say Matt Blair next. We did mention Matt Blair a little bit earlier, but I don't think Matt Blair was a first round pick.
Matt was a second round pick.
Yeah. So we're only doing first round picks on this show tonight. So the next pick, number 70 in 1978, 21 overall, a defensive end from Pittsburgh, was Randy Holloway.
Serviceable, off and on starter, predominantly just a pass rusher. He's got the record for most sacks in a game by a Viking, I think, still 5, which is weird because he got the record in 84 against the Falcons, Les Steckel year. And I think 2 weeks later, Les Steckel waived him.
Which is, he only had 16 and a half sacks.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he was serviceable. Nothing flashy, but
yeah,
he's just got the team record for sacks in a game. I think.
Yeah, on September 16th, 84, had 5 sacks versus the Falcons, which stands through the 28 as of the 2018 season as a Vikings team record. Well, no one's had more than 5 sacks. It's still the record. Yeah,
it's still there.
He ended his career with the Cardinals in '84, St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, the Cardinals. We waived him, and the Cardinals picked him up right away. So, but he
makes sense,
right?
Yeah. So I mean, still, they've only really ever had one you consider as of right up until this point.
Only bust you've really had is Leo Hayden and maybe Jerry Shea, but those are the only 2 busts you've had.
Well, if a player plays 3 or 4 years, he's not really considered a bust, though, right?
Oh, they can be if they never see the field.
So
they can be if he never and in their time with the team that drafted them, if they never see the field or are hurt all the time, they're a bust.
Yeah, it's not, I guess. Well, especially she was the number 7th pick too, Jerry Shea. So I guess you could probably say.
Yeah, and so, but he was. I mean, from everybody I knew, from all I heard of other people that have covered the Vikings, Shea was a bust. And Leo Hayden was for sure a bust. I remember my dad talking about him, how bad he was. And when Leo was on the team, it's not like we didn't have this plethora of great running backs. He could have got on the field somehow, and he couldn't. So. Yeah.
So the next guy, 79, 16th pick overall from North Carolina State, running back, Ted Brown.
He was Chuck Foreman's replacement. Another running back, played the fullback position. He was a fullback, but he was also another running back who could catch. He was a very good receiver. Had a different running style from Chuck, kind of that. He didn't look fast, but I guess he was. He was good. He gained 1,000 yards in 81. He had 81 catches, I believe. Yeah, he had 83 catches in 81?
It doesn't really say much about his pro career on here. They have a lot of his college information, but doesn't really say much about his his pro career.
Hey, Sarah, what's up?
Other than he shot himself.
Oh yeah, that was during the off season of 82. Yeah, he did. But I mean, he was actually the first player to ever get suspended by Bud Grant in 83. And then 84, he got suspended again. Him and Sammy White got suspended for leaving a game early, and Les Steckel suspended them. He stayed with the team until 86. Nothing flashy. He was serviceable. He ended up, I know him from semi-pro football here in the Twin Cities. He ended up coaching semi-pro football, so that's where I know him from. But yeah, he was serviceable guy. He's a good guy. He's a great guy.
He had 40 career touchdowns.
Yeah,
So,
he scored a lot.
Yeah, that's not bad.
No, He had a decent NFL career. He did. And
What up, Sarah? Yeah. Great topic so far that we've been doing so far. Glad you gave us the idea for it. I know we started a little bit ago. We're trying to we're trying to get the time nailed down for this show. I know we've been inconsistent with this show, but I think we have a new time settled down.
So we are on year 1980, Sarah. Getting ready to do 1980.
Yeah, we just did Ted Brown. So the next pick, defensive tackle out of Washington, number 9 pick overall, Mr. Doug Martin.
Doug would have been a great defensive end, but injuries and holdouts derailed his career. He held out his rookie year. He signed late. He wasn't at training camp at all. He split time with Randy Holloway. That's him and Randy split time for 2 years. And then Doug became the full-time starter in 82. And in a strike-shortened year, Doug led the league in sacks with 10.5. And then in 1983, he led the Vikings, I believe, with like 12.5 sacks. So in a span of 2 years, Doug had like 24 sacks.
Yeah, in his 10 NFL seasons, he had 50.5 sacks.
Yep. By the way, his brother also was a starting. His brother George was a starting defensive end with the New York Giants. That was his brother. And then 84 rolls around, Doug holds out again. He signs late, comes in, and then he starts getting injuries, which derailed his career. And so he's healthy up until he's healthy. Then 88 rolls around. He holds out again. So he holds out. He doesn't sign until, I want to say, the second game of the regular season. And then he comes in, he gets hurt. Matter of fact, he took a really bad shot. The Saints kind of high-lowed him in a game. And he came back in 89, but he was done by 90. His career was over. But yeah, he held out a lot. And it kind of marred his career. But he was very good. Never made the Pro Bowl. Should have.
That strike shortened year seemed to be his best year.
Yeah. And that was he was the first. That's the year that the NFL made individual sacks a stat, and he led the league. So he was the first one. So if there's ever a trivia question, who was the first NFL player to ever lead the league in sacks? Officially, it's Doug Martin from Minnesota Vikings.
So 81, there was no pick.
No, we traded it to Baltimore for two number twos.
What does it say here? Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it doesn't. Let's see. Doesn't really say that the draft was held. Yeah, it doesn't say that they traded him on.
I know who we picked. The number twos were Marty McDowell, never made it. Robin Sendline was more important. Sendline was more important because in '85 he was part of the trade to Miami that got us the rights to Anthony Carter, and Jarvis Redwine was predominantly a kick return guy, but he was cut by Les Steckel, and so was Marty McDowell. So,
Yeah, Marty McDowell from Mississippi State.
yeah. So
We got that from Baltimore, and then we also got Jarvis Redwine
Jarvis Redwine from Nebraska, I believe.
from Nebraska, running back from Los Angeles via Washington and Baltimore. So those were the 2 second-round picks that year.
Yeah.
I
don't know why they traded down. I
Yeah.
think they were trying to be too cute, Sarah.
The 3rd-round pick that year, that guy was a stud. They got Tim Irwin.
He took over for Yuri in '82 and was there until 1993. Never missed a game.
Yeah.
Never missed a game. 81's also the year we drafted Wade Wilson. He was the 8th pick.
So they have up until the round 5.
Mm-hmm.
They took Wendell Ray.
Wendell Ray never made it. He never made it.
Right. And then round 6, let's see. There was no pick. They didn't have a pick in the 6th round. So round 7, Don Shaver.
Never made it.
From Kutztown.
Yeah, he never made it.
And then round 8, Wade Wilson.
Yeah, Wade Wilson. Yeah,
East Texas State.
Yeah, that wasn't it. That draft in general wasn't very good.
Well, you got 2 good players out of it, at least. So, I mean, and then the last pick, James Murphy.
James Murphy. Okay, here's James Murphy's Minnesota history. James Murphy scored the last touchdown at Metropolitan Stadium as a Kansas City Chief.
That's hilarious, actually.
He was a Chief, and he scored the last touchdown ever at Met Stadium.
Yeah, that's the other guy they took wasn't very good. Brian Williams, tight end.
No, like I said, very.
Yeah, so it looks
really
like
made that list.
Yeah, so that looks like. So still though, the Vikings first round. If we think about it with the draft being a 50-50, with the Vikings with the first round being considered a 50-50, whether the player is going to make it or not. The Vikings have had pretty good. Vikings have had a pretty good history of hitting. They've had more hits than misses so far.
So far, up until and I give credit to that to Bud because Bud knew how to use these guys, and Bud could work with them. And that was a time when coaches actually worked with the players. If a player didn't make it, it was usually on him.
Yeah,
back then. So, Sarah, we left Metropolitan Stadium after the 1981 season because we built the Metrodome in downtown Minneapolis
in '82.
And the team wanted a new stadium, so they moved into the Metrodome.
And they still wanted to keep it multi-purpose.
Yep.
So
yeah.
the Twins would not have any games.
And we had a soccer team then too, the
Yeah.
Minnesota Kicks. So they wanted to keep a multi-purpose stadium, and he wanted a Super Bowl up here too. So,
well, they got one. That was the Redskins, right? Bills?
Redskins, Buffalo.
So,
Took them 10 years.
All right. The next pick, 1983.
No, 82.
Yeah, 82. Sorry.
Darren Nelson.
Yeah, Darren Nelson, number 7 overall. Darren Nelson.
Okay, guess who the Vikings passed on for Darren Nelson?
Let's see, 82. Was that Jerry Rice?
They passed on Marcus Allen.
Let's see. Yeah, I didn't know what year Jerry Rice was taken.
Jerry Rice is 85.
85. Okay.
They passed on Marcus Allen 82. They passed on Marcus Allen. They passed on Gerald Riggs. They passed on Walter Abercrombie for Darren Nelson. And then Darren decides to hold out. Darren even said it. He's like, I can't go to Minnesota. I can't just go to country music. That was what he said. He was not happy to be a Viking. He was not happy at all. But in his time here, he kind of gave us that hope that he could be that back, that breakaway back. He was a good receiver. He was small.
Yeah,
I think he was like 5'8".
Yeah, he was 5'9", 184 pounds.
Yeah, he was small, but he was fast, and he was a good receiver. That's one thing. If you play for Bud Grant and you were a running back, you had to be able to catch the ball, and Darren could do it. Like I said, he had his moments, but he was part of the Herschel Walker trade.
Yeah, he actually had 2 stints with Minnesota, 82 to 89. Then he played for the Chargers from 89 to 90. Then he went back to Minnesota for 91, 92.
Yeah, he came back. He was a kick returner. He was a kick returner. I think he played more running back with Bernsey in 91, but in 82 or 92 with Denny, he was strictly a kick returner, and then he retired. He lived up here for a while, and then he actually did color commentary on the Vikings radio telecast for a few years.
Yeah. So in 89, he staged an acrimonious contract holdout and lost the starting position to DJ Dozier. God, I remember that name.
Yeah, he's coming up on this list.
On October 12th, Nelson was traded to the Cowboys as part of the Herschel Walker trade.
Yep.
At the time, he appeared in 5 games as a backup, registering 57 carries for 321 yards.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess you could say, part of the Herschel Walker trade was, he wasn't very good with the Chargers.
No, the Chargers didn't use him much.
Yeah.
The Chargers were going through their drama too at that time. So
Darren Nelson, he is what he is. He's, everybody knows about him and the drop in 87 and all that. And being part of the Herschel Walker trade, that's pretty much his two claims to fame.
Mm-hmm.
So the next 2 picks, so 83, the 19th overall pick.
Joey Browner.
Safety from Southern California. My man. My favorite Viking of all time, Mr. Joey Browner.
Yeah. And Joey actually played cornerback at one time too. Matter of fact, in 84, Les Steckel, this is how stupid Les Steckel was. He had Joey Browner playing cornerback and Carl Lee playing safety.
Yeah.
And so, Bud's like, okay, this is completely wrong. Flip-flopped him, and the rest is history. Joey was the man. Joey was that defense. Joey, for as strong as he was, smart as he was, the guy could do it all on defense. He could have been a rover. He could play that linebacker. He was big enough to play that linebacker position. He could blitz, and he hit you. He literally hit you.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why, Sarah. Before I got fat, I wanted to play safety. So I looked up to him, wanted to play safety. He would hit you on Monday and knock you into Wednesday. Just the way he played the game, I just loved the way he played the game. He gave you effort all the time.
Yep.
If you watch that playoff highlight against the 49ers when Steve Young goes on that run, Joey Browner missed him at the beginning of the run, and he's the last player there to tackle him as he's going into the end zone, chasing him all the way down. So he got up and chased him back down. Just the effort that Joey Browner gave and how hard he hit people, the way that he played the game. That the number 47 purple is burnt into my mind of how he played the game. That's why he's my favorite of all time.
And Joey Browner's crowning moment, and I won't say crowning, but excuse me, the one moment that sticks out was we came back from the players' strike. It was the night after the Twins won the World Series. We played Denver. Gerald Wilhite broke away. He's on his way to a touchdown. This is like a 60-yard run. Joey Browner runs him down, literally grabs him by the back of the shoulder pads with one hand, full stride, and tackles him. in the process, he tore up Wilhite's knee. Wilhite never played again after that play, which now that play would be a horse collar.
Yeah.
But and he did it. He didn't grab the jersey or nothing. He grabbed the shoulder pads. He grabbed the back of the shoulder pads between the helmet and the pad. He grabbed him and brought him down. And that just showed you how strong Joey Browner was. He was just absolutely, he was a beast. He was a beast. He should be in the Hall of Fame. He should be considered for the Hall of Fame. Was All-Pro 4 or 5 times. Was in a Pro Bowl for 6 straight years. And he was kind of the catalyst of that 80s defense that the Vikings
85 to 90, he was in the Pro Bowl.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, that's and also at that time the Vikings had a hard time signing their draft picks. They were holding out and all that stuff. Joey Browner got drafted on a Tuesday. 3 days later, he signed a contract and was under contract to play for the Vikings. And he wanted to play for Bud. He wanted to play for Bud. That was another one too. So
yeah. He unfortunately finished his career in Tampa.
Well, what happened was we had him here, and he failed his physical, and the Vikings released him. Denny Green released him, and Sam Weish signed him. He didn't even finish the season with the Buccaneers. I think he only played like 6 games.
He was a 3-time all-time. He was a 3-time first-team All-Pro, 87, 88, 90. Second team in 89. 6-time Pro Bowler. Part of the NFL All-80s Decade Team. Ring of Honor for Minnesota 2013. One of the 50 greatest Vikings, the 40th anniversary team, and the Vikings All of America field team. He was on that.
Yeah.
37 interceptions, 465 interception yards, 17 fumble recoveries, 9.5 sacks. He had 4 touchdowns. But his family is athletic as well.
Oh, Ross played defensive end with the Bengals
and Packers.
Keith played linebacker with the Buccaneers, and I forget who else.
Yeah, Jim Browner played with Cincinnati.
Keith
Browner all played in the NFL. So did Ross's son, Max Starks. There's a name people might know.
Yep.
Keith's son, Keith Browner Jr., Houston Texans. Browner's next oldest son, oldest brother, Willard, was drafted by the White Sox.
Yeah. So they were all athletes.
So they were all athletes. So,
and this is something you don't hear now. You haven't heard from a Viking player in years. Joey Browner was feared.
Yes.
He was feared in his day. You did not want to throw the ball anywhere near Browner. He was going to hit you.
Yeah, you didn't want to be a receiver going over the middle with Browner.
Right, you did not. And if Browner didn't hit you, Scott Studwell did. So you were getting tattooed. Yep. And we haven't heard that in years.
Yeah.
Well, with the NFL change,
we're not I think Hitman would be able. Hitman has the ability to do it. They just don't allow him.
Well, he doesn't, and they flag him.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for the guy. He's just doing his job. Yet, and that's today's NFL. But that's for another show.
But so y'all know who my second favorite player in Minnesota Vikings history. But Joey Browner is by far the way my favorite. I think it's more because it's probably more nostalgia, and I was actually younger. So we're talking 83. So I was like 8, 9 when he was drafted. So yeah. But the next guy, they actually had 2 picks at 84. One was the NFL draft. One was a supplemental draft from the USFL and the Canadian Football League draft. But the guy who was drafted in the NFL draft, pick number 13, defensive end from Washington State, Mr. Keith Millard.
Who did not play in 84 with the Vikings. He didn't sign. He took more money and went to the USFL. He played 2 years in the USFL and then
Jacksonville Bulls.
The Jacksonville Bulls, which were owned by Larry Zonka at the time. He played in Jacksonville, and I think as soon as the Jacksonville season was over, the USFL season was over for 3 weeks, but everybody knew the league was basically going belly up. He signed with the Vikings.
Yep.
He signed with the Vikings. And I think the reason he came back was because Bud. Since he came back because it wasn't Steckel, it was Bud. And once he got here, the the impact was immediate with Millard. That intensity that he had, the way he played defensive line, he was a beast. When you say somebody was a beast, it was Millard. And I will say it now, if it hadn't been for the knee injury that he suffered in 90, Millard's in the Hall of Fame. No doubt.
Oh, by far.
Yeah, no
By far.
doubt. Millard's in the
Yeah.
Hall of Fame. Chris Dolman even said it. He said that Keith Millard stays with the Vikings and he doesn't get hurt. He's in the Hall of Fame.
I heard a story that his actual Millard was not actually his birth name. I heard his birth name was actually Applegate, but he hated his father so much that he changed it to his mom's name.
I heard that too.
I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I did hear that story.
I heard that rumbling. You heard about the one that he had the run-in before training camp with the Bloomington, Minnesota police, right? You heard about that one?
Yeah, I've heard stories. I
The
don't
one
know.
where they heard loud music coming from his hotel room. He's getting ready for training camp.
Yeah.
So the cops were called and they basically get there. They talk to him, and then Millard says, "My arms are more powerful than your guns."
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't surprise me that he said that. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, 85, he played for the Bulls, Jacksonville Bulls. 85 to 91 with the Vikings. 92 to Seattle. Also, Green Bay with 92. Then he ended his career with the Eagles.
Yeah.
But he was also a coach, too. He was the assistant line coach for the Los Angeles Dragons. I'm not sure what that is.
XFL.
The San Francisco Demons.
XFL.
Yep. Then Denver Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
The Oakland Raiders, Tampa Bay, and then he finished the defensive assistant as in Tennessee in 2012.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was dominant before his knee injury.
Yep.
He
he had the record for most sacks by a defensive tackle until Aaron Donald broke it.
Yes. His record was broken by Donald in 2018.
Yep.
He was also the last NFL Defensive Player of the Year that season.
Yeah. Yes, he was.
So he Defensive Player of the Year in 89, UPI NFC Player of the Year in 89. He was a two-time first team All-American All-Pro, second team All-Pro in 87, two-time Pro Bowler, NFL 1980s All-Decade Team, 50 Greatest Vikings, second on all-time, second team all-time USFL, and he won the Morris Trophy in 83.
Mm-hmm.
58 career sacks, 10 fumble recoveries, 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown.
Yep.
He did not play in 91 because of injury. So pretty much 90 was his last year.
He played
4 games that year.
In 91, he played in all the preseason. And then what happened was, I guess the knee injury flared up again. So the Vikings put him on IR, and he stayed on IR for the rest of the year. And then Denny Green. I mean, we had no draft choices. We still didn't have no draft choices from the Walker trade. So we traded Keith Millard to Seattle for a second-round pick.
Yeah. So the first 2. So he only played 4 games in 1990. He got hurt in the 4th game.
Fourth game was where he got hurt by Tampa.
Yeah, he already had 2 sacks already that season. So
one of them was on Tommy Kramer against the Saints. Yeah, and the shot he took, I mean, it was one of those where you have a lineman engage you high, and you have another one go for the knees, and that's what happened.
And that's why they outlawed that block.
Yep, that's what happened.
So in 84, the CFL, USFL draft, they took a guy, Alonda Smith.
Never played.
I don't think he played.
He never played a down with this team. Never played a down for this team.
He was on injured reserve the whole season. Then they released him.
Yeah, he was garbage. He was bad. He was not good.
And then he signed with the Redskins, and they also released him.
Yep.
So that was almost like it was. I mean, it wasn't like the official draft, so I guess they kind of took it as a let's go to, let's just take a flyer on this guy. Okay. So 85, number 4 pick. This guy's a Hall of Famer. Linebacker from Pittsburgh. is what they drafted him as, but he played defensive end, Chris Dolman.
And that draft. Hang on, I'm going to answer Sarah's question here. Herschel
Okay.
Walker was the Herschel Walker trade was Mike Lynn, pure and simple.
Yes.
That was Mike.
And
Lynn.
then after he did the trade, he left to go do the World League of American Football.
Yeah, and after he left, and then when the trade fizzled, when the trade didn't work, it sucked. He basically abandoned ship. So yeah, that was all Mike Lynn. But Dolman, that draft was all screwed in the first place because originally the Vikings wanted to draft Bill Fralick, the guard from Pittsburgh.
Right.
Fralick wrote a letter to the Vikings and told them he was not going to play for them. Period. He wasn't going to play for them. So the Vikings, what happened was Minnesota, I think, was number 3. So they ended up, I believe it was a trade or something, or they missed their pick or whatever. And the Houston Oilers took Ray Childress. And then with the 4th pick, the Vikings took Chris Dolman, who was drafted as the heir apparent to Matt Blair. He played linebacker in 85. And early 86, he was a starter, but something happened. He just wasn't getting it in linebacker. And I think it was the coverage part that he wasn't getting. And so he actually lost his spot to Chris Martin. So he was on the bench. Dolman was on the bench. And then the Vikings started to have these injuries with their defensive ends. Were going down. And so I guess that was when the Viking brain trust, Burns and Peters put Floyd Peters, the defensive coordinator, put their heads together and like, well, let's move Chris to defensive end. But we're going to have to teach him how to be in a 3-point stance because he was a stand-up linebacker. And so in a 4-3, he had to be in a 3-point stance. And that's where Mark Mullaney worked with him to get him accustomed to a 3-point stance. And the rest is history. He slowly started to get into the position. 86, he had 3-4 sacks just by being from a 3-point stance as a defensive end. And then in 87, he goes to the Pro Bowl with 11.5. And he just gets better and better. And, you think about it, that was where the position change benefited. I always liked Chris Dolman. I didn't want to trade him, but at that time, with the way management was being run then, there were a lot of the older players that once they got the chance, if they could make money somewhere else, they were going to do it. They weren't going to stay with the Vikings.
Yeah.
And Chris was one of them. So Chris went to Atlanta, and then he went to San Francisco, where he played his ass off. And he finished his career with the Vikings. He still put up 9 sacks his final year with the Vikings. And he's in the Ring of Honor. He's in the Hall of Fame. Rest his soul. He's no longer with us. But yeah, that was, once again, a great draft pick for the Vikings.
Well, 85 draft was actually pretty good because they also got Kurt Loudermilk in that draft.
Yep. Isaac Holt.
Isaac Holt was their second pick. Then they got Kirk Loudermilk. They got Tim Member. I don't think he didn't.
Meamber didn't. Meamber lasted 2 seasons. I think he was on IR. Steve Bono. We drafted Steve Bono.
Yes.
Yep. We drafted Steve Bono. Bono did play. He did play with the Vikings, but
yeah. And Nikita Blair. I don't remember him doing really anything.
He got released.
But then Jamie Covington.
Yeah, they all got released.
But there was one other name in this draft. Mr. Buster Rhymes.
Oh yeah, he set the record as a rookie for kick returns.
Yeah.
And then he just the next year it just didn't work. I think he had a substance abuse problem too. I think that's what it was.
Yeah. So but
then,
then
which was not uncommon in that day. Not uncommon.
Yeah, hell, they had a guy miss the Super Bowl because he was on a bender.
He was on a bender, yeah.
So 86, we're probably not going to spend too much time on these next two guys. '86 was Gerald Robinson.
Spot player.
Yeah.
He played his best game was against the Bears that year. He had 2.5 sacks. He was the replacement for Mark Mullaney because Mark had got hurt. But then he got hurt. And so he stayed hurt from 86 to 87, and then the Vikings released him in 88. I think he went to the Rams and played with other couple of teams.
And then we mentioned this guy earlier, 87, the 14th pick. For some reason, as a kid, I loved this guy. I don't know if it was just his name, but William Henry Dozier Jr., better known as DJ.
Yeah, he looked good at Penn State.
Yeah.
He was great at Penn State. He actually came in to the Vikings. He looked pretty good. I think he made the all-rookie team. But then 88, he gets they played the Bears in preseason. Yes, we played the Bears in preseason in Sweden. And he got a hip pointer, and he never recovered from it. Never. Yeah. And so he was gone by 90. And he also wanted to play baseball. Yeah. That was another thing, too. He wanted to play baseball. So, yeah,
he was Bo Jackson before Bo Jackson, but he wasn't as good as Bo Jackson.
Right. So he was, for the most part, a bust.
Yeah. How about we talked about Jarvis Redwine, Nick?
Yeah, we talked about him 81. There ain't much to talk about. He was just a kick returner.
Yeah. And then, so the reason why I didn't want to spend too much time on those two is because the 1988, the number 19 pick, is a Hall of Famer, probably one of the best guards to ever play the game out of Arizona State, Mr. Randall McDaniel.
Yep, he started the second game of 88, never missed a game, all the way up to 1999. Never missed a game. He had that left guard position for the Vikings up until 1999.
Yep.
And the only reason he got let go was because Danny Green did not want to re-sign him. That was all.
He should have been a lifer.
He should have been a lifer. And he was just that. I mean, the stance was ugly and he didn't look that strong, but I'll tell you what, the man could play football. He could play. That's another trade where that's another draft pick where the Vikings hit it.
Yeah. How's this for a stat? He ran the 100-meter dash in 10.64 seconds.
Yeah, and he was 280. He weighed 285 pounds, Yeah,
he started every Vikings regular season game from 1990 to 1999, as well as a consecutive record, 11 Pro Bowls. He's recognized as one of the most versatile offensive linemen to ever play the game. Started 12 consecutive Pro Bowls.
Yeah.
He would actually play fullback in short yardage situations. I actually remember that.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. He signed a 3-year, $6 million contract with Tampa.
And he only played what, 2 years?
Yeah, he played 2 seasons. If he would have played that third year, he'd have a ring.
Yeah, because Tampa Bay signed both him and Jeff Christie.
Yeah.
So Christie got a ring. Randall retired.
So 7-time first team All-Pro, 1990, 1992 to 96 and 98. And then the years when he didn't get his first team, he was second team, so 91 and 97. 12-time Pro Bowler, 12 straight years. NFL's All-Decade Team, NFL 100 Anniversary All-Time Team, PFWA All-Rookie Team, 88, Ring of Honor, 50 Greatest Vikings, 40th Anniversary Team, the Morris Trophy, the Rose Bowl champion. So he played 222 games. He started 220.
Yep.
He had 1 receiving touchdown. So the man is a guard that we wish we had on the team right now.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Yep.
Yeah.
Big time.
So a Hall of Famer. So the Vikings have had pretty good success. You get 2 Hall of Famers and 4 out of 4 years. Anybody would call that a success.
Mm-hmm.
So 89, 90, 91, and 92, they did not have a draft pick. That was the Herschel Walker trade.
That was the Herschel Walker trade. Well, 90. Well, actually, we traded the 89 to Pittsburgh, and I think that's how we got Mike Merriweather, the linebacker. And we traded our number one, but everything after that is because of the Herschel Walker deal.
Yeah, right here, number 24, first pick, number 24. They traded it to Pittsburgh, and they got the Steelers drafted Tom Ricketts.
Oh, the guard.
Yeah.
Who didn't? I mean, Ricketts didn't play. Ricketts was so.
So David Braxton was the Vikings' first pick that year.
Yeah. Next.
Yeah, I don't even remember that name.
I do.
John Hunter, that was another bad pick.
Only one that made that draft was, I think, It was Ingram, the tight end.
Darrell Ingram.
Darrell Ingram. He's the only one.
Uh,
Everybody else was either on injured reserve or a bust.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they had a fifth round. And then so
we didn't trade Herschel Walker, Sarah. We didn't sign him. We traded for him because Mike Lynn felt we needed a running back.
He thought we were running back away.
He thought we were running back away. Mike Lynn was basically what with Herschel Walker, what Rick Spielman was with Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
And he only stayed with us, and Herschel was with us 2.5 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
2.5 years.
It was not.
Denny Green wanted to keep him, but he did not want to stay in Minnesota. So I don't think I would have wanted to either. So
Yeah.
we didn't have another number one draft pick until 1993.
Yeah, so 89 to 92, the Vikings did not have a first round pick. 93 was Robert Smith.
Yep. Who it didn't look like he was gonna turn out. He kept having knee injuries every year, except 94. And then boom, he was all of a sudden healthy, became one of the greatest backs in team history. But at the start, it didn't look promising. It looked promising, but the knee injuries just were like, okay. And he was also another one that would hold out. He would hold out.
He was too smart for his own good sometimes.
Yeah. And Robert retired. He was due for a big payday in 2001.
Yep.
And he walked away. He left a lot of money. He left a lot of money on that field when he walked away.
Yeah, he said that he did not want to be, because he said he would see George Foreman at the Vikings. Chuck Foreman at the Vikings alumni dinners, and he said he did not want to be limping at that age the same way Chuck Foreman did.
Oh God! And the funny thing was, he probably saw Bill Brown too, and Bill Brown was worse.
Yeah.
My God. Bill was hunched over and just he looked so bad.
And Robert Smith was, I think people don't realize how good he was. In 8 seasons, he had 6,800 yards, 32 touchdowns, 178 receptions for 1,200 yards and 6 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
And he only fumbled the ball 9 times.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he just, and after a while, he started, when he did break runs, he would run close to the sideline, which he learned to get out of bounds, which he made that mistake in a championship game in Atlanta. If he stays in bounds, the clock keeps running, but that's for another show. But I was pleasantly surprised with him. So he was successful. He was a successful draft pick.
Yeah.
Zoe's
interesting. Zoe came back now that we're in the 90s. Zoe came back in. He's like, all right, boys.
Well, yeah, we're almost there. So he's interested. We're almost there.
So after Robert Smith, oh God, this guy, my nickname for this guy is Burnt Toast.
Dwayne Washington.
He was the first pick in 1994. They had back-to-back picks.
They had back-to-back picks.
Todd Stussy was the next pick.
Mm-hmm. And Stussy was another one that would get on minor because Stussy was Mr. False Start.
Yes.
Yes. And with Dwayne, I mean, Dwayne was boom or bust. Dwayne would make a great play, get a pick six or whatever, but then he would give up just as many big plays, and it was just frustrating. Stussy was that old school mauler dude, but he would jump off. He would false start was his specialty, and if you were a speed rusher, you beat him.
You beat him around the corner.
The one who made him look the worst was Chris Dolman
when he played against
we played the Niners.
Yeah,
I mean, Dolman was like putting on a clinic out there.
You know, like, you missed me yet?
It's like Dolman was just. And I remember when they interviewed him, he's like, you know what? That was my team for so many years. I still love that team. I love that state. I have no hard feelings towards that team. This is my job.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, they were as good as they were frustrating.
Yeah.
You know, but Stussy was an all pro.
Yep.
He did make all pro. That side of Stussy and McDaniel was probably one of the best left sides in football.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, they were together.
So the next pick, they had 2 picks in 95. 2 years in a row, they had 2 picks in the first round. This next pick is probably the legitimate second bust the Vikings have taken in the first round. Derek Alexander.
Yeah, and he was a starter.
Yep.
He was a starter. He held out.
Yep.
He held out and never. I mean, I don't think he got more than 4 sacks in a season with the team. I just don't.
He had 20 his whole career. Chris Dolman had more than that one season.
Right. And he only, when I think about it, he ended up going to Cleveland and then he retired right away. They said it was his knees or something.
He played 95 to 99. He had 2 sacks his rookie year, 3.5 in 96. 98 was his best season. You could say that for a lot of Vikings around this time. He had 7.5 that year.
He got 7.5 that year?
That was his high, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So he had 1 sack in the 96 playoffs, but he didn't have any 98.
He was, you know what? He was invisible most of the time.
Yeah.
He was invisible. Now, the other number 1 draft choice was Corey Stringer.
Big K, 77. Rest in peace, brother.
And Corey, once Corey got into the starting lineup, then he also started David Dixon. So that right side of the line was nothing but it was just huge. And if Corey had lived, Corey would have been multiple All-Pro Pro Bowlers. He was. I
think he probably would have been a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he was on his way. But Corey did have the weight issue.
It was 6'4", 346.
They're being generous when they say 346. I remember reading reports that Denny was worried about him because in the offseason, Corey would literally balloon to almost 400 pounds. And he wasn't, his diet was still the same. It was, and it worried Denny because it's like he's gaining weight. Why? And he's active. Why does he keep gaining weight? They actually paid for a medical study at Boston University to see what was going on with him. And then, he passed away at training camp. But that's.
And the Vikings honored his contract and paid his wife this whole.
They honored his contract. I give them a Combs that much. They honored his contract, but he lives. He's another Hall of Famer. Let's just put that there.
And the wife still sued the Vikings.
She sued the NFL too.
Yeah,
she sued the NFL.
Okay, so I would consider this guy a bust in 1996. I don't know if you would, but Dwayne Clemens.
Bust. He couldn't get on the field. I don't know why. It's the one thing the Viking defensive line had was inconsistency. The only one that was a constant threat was John Randall. Nobody else helped him. Dwayne should have, as a number 1 draft choice, he came in with the accolades. He came in with everything. He should have stepped in and been a starter, but he wasn't. He just wasn't, and I don't know what it was.
1997, the 20th overall pick. This guy is probably more famous for taking his helmet off in a crucial time of the game. Dwayne Rudd.
He is, for as good as he was a bonehead.
Yeah.
He was a bonehead. He just did some stupid ass things during games. You know, it's just you're just kind of like, dude, with all the ability you have, you're an idiot. you know.
Yeah.
But you know, at the time he fit.
So
okay, Zoe, stick around for this one. You're gonna like this one.
So that's three. That's three so far. That's only three legitimate busts the Vikings have taken in the first round.
Right.
Okay. The moment you all been waiting for. The jersey I am wearing tonight. The guy that probably saved the Vikings franchise from moving. Mr. Randy Moss.
Okay, first of all, the team was never moving.
I know. I'm just saying. People say that all the time.
No, this team was never moving.
It in there.
What Randy Moss did do was put us back on the map. We hadn't been on the map since probably Tarkington and the Purple People Eaters. What Randy Moss did was put this team back on the map nationwide. The guy was must-see TV. He was electric on the field. He looked like a man among boys out there. He did at times. And there's not much else you can say about him. You know, the guy he'll always be one of the greatest Vikings in my eyes. But what he did in '98, he literally put this team on the map all by himself. And from then on, he was this team. He carried this team even with Dante for years.
Were you guys able to hold on a second? Were you guys able to hear? Because it said the sound went on that.
I can hear you.
Now you can hear me, but I'm saying when you were talking about the whole Randy Moss thing, you said the stream was muted.
Oh.
Were you guys able to hear him? Zoe, were you able to hear that, or was it muted?
I can repeat it if you want me to.
Go ahead and repeat it because it said it was muted.
Randy Moss was he put this team on the map. He put Minneapolis on the map. Put it that way. Okay, Zoe said he heard it.
Okay.
When Randy Moss got here, the Vikings were must-see TV.
Yeah,
they were must-see TV. And as long as he was here, he gave this team. He was the identity of this team, and his ability to play ball. I mean, he wasn't polarizing. He was Randy Moss, you know, and ain't much more you can say about a Hall of Famer except he was great, one of the greatest.
I actually have a story about Randy Moss. My wife's from West Virginia, so and she's around our age, so this is the time that she was going to school and everything like that. Well, they were, I can't remember where they were. I don't know if my wife was visiting Marshall or whatever. She got into an elevator with Randy Moss, and he's like, my wife had no reaction at all. And Randy turned around and he goes, "Man, no reaction. Do you know who I am?" My wife goes, "And?"
Oh my God. Oh my God.
My wife knew who he was. She just didn't care. Like,
yeah. Well, I'm like that too with like celebrities and shit. I just don't give a damn. I'm like,
as someone who went to, school for radio and TV broadcasting, I used to do radio shows. We'd have celebrities come on all the time, and they're just regular people. Just because they're famous doesn't mean they're anybody special. So like when I see like these people go nuts over a famous person, I'm like, they're just a person. They just happen to be famous. What, But no, it's funny. But
okay, I got to answer these chats here. Zoe, do not put these current problems on Randy Moss. Do not do that. That's wrong. That is completely wrong.
You know damn well you would not be suffering. You would not be going through the issue. You would not be a Vikings fan if it was Randy Moss. If you want to blame Randy Moss for that, then go ahead.
Yeah, blame Randy Moss for your fandom, but don't blame him for this BS that we're going through right now. This is not on him. And the one that was really the mentor, Sarah, to Randy was Dennis Green.
And Jake Reed, too.
And Jake Reed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Jake
Chris
Reed if you follow Jake Reed on Twitter, he loves Moss, man. He's like, he's like, I'm glad he took my job.
Yeah. Yeah. He was never upset about it, never nothing.
Yeah.
But Denny Green was the one. I mean, Randy talks about Danny and literally cries because
Yeah.
Danny was the one who took the chance on him.
Because I remember he was a 21st pick. I don't even have to look that up. I know that he was a 21st pick
19 teams passed on him.
in Bengals twice.
Bengals twice, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you know who else passed up on him with his
because
team? You know who else passed on him with his team as dysfunctional idiots was Jerry Jones.
Yeah. Jerry Jones promised that he would take Moss. He's like, if you're there, I'm taking you. That's why he
lit him up on
That's why
Thanksgiving.
my name is TYA Catch 84, because that's your ass, because Randy Moss handed Dallas Cowboys their ass every time he played them, because he was extra motivated to play the Cowboys because Jerry Jones flat out lied to his face.
And you know who didn't play that game for the Cowboys?
The Thanksgiving game.
Yeah.
You talking about on our team?
No, on the Cowboys.
Oh, no. I don't
Dion.
care about the Cowboys.
Dion didn't play.
Oh. Was he faking one of his injuries?
Probably. Probably.
I think Randy Moss still would have ate him up.
He did in a playoff game the next year.
Yeah. So, but no, I mean Randy is he is the current day Mr. Viking. I know he didn't in his career with Minnesota. He should have.
Yeah, and you know what? You can blame Childress for that one.
Yes.
Because the Wilfs brought Randy Moss back to sell tickets. Two factors. The Wilfs brought him back to sell tickets. Brett Favre always wanted to play with Randy Moss as a teammate. Yep. He always wanted to be a teammate of Randy Moss. And he finally gets a chance, and Childress got rid of Moss over some bullshit, literal bullshit.
Yeah.
And he cut Randy Moss without telling the Wilfs, which, among other things, led to the Wilfs actually firing Childress in the middle of the season. So he should have retired a Viking. Well, I think he sign a 1 year, one-day deal to retire a Viking.
His brother also played with Minnesota that year too.
Yeah, Eric
Moss also played for the Vikings.
So that all helped. So he had a good network of support. He had a good positive role models that he could look up to. But I ain't gonna tell you what happened later because I heard some stories.
Yeah. He signed with Notre Dame, as everybody knows. Then he got he left Notre Dame. Lou Holtz said he was the best high school player he'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Then he transferred to it says after originally signing a letter to play college football with Notre Dame, Moss took part in a racially charged fight in a high school that left one person hospitalized. And then so Notre Dame kicked him off. So then he signed with Florida State.
Yeah.
And then I think Moss got to another fight. So Florida State kicked him out. So pretty much what saved him was going back to his home state,
Marshall,
West Virginia, going to Huntington, West Virginia, to go to Marshall. That in Chad Pennington, I think also was kind of in college was kind of a person that kind of worked with him as well. But he was just an angry kid, which happens. He made some mistakes. I think he's learned from those mistakes. He is the reason why there's a lot of people, and Zoe is part
of a generation of new Viking fans, and Randy Moss is the reason for that generation.
Yes, Moss has a relationship with the Vikings.
He does. He's in a commercial now. He's wearing a Viking uniform.
Yeah, he's busy. That's why he's not there.
Yeah, he's not around and Randy doesn't live in the Twin Cities.
No.
So what a house he did have, he sold when he was traded. But being that he's still popular.
He still does his charity.
Yeah.
In Minnesota.
Yeah. He's one
of the most charitable Vikings, man.
Yeah. He still has. He might even have a place here in Minneapolis. Who knows? But he comes up here every now and then. But he has a positive relationship. The Wilfs love him.
Yeah.
The Wilfs love him. They want to keep him. The Wilfs want to keep Randy around more than they want to keep the older guys around. But the older guys live in the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he's still got a relationship.
Yeah. And then so the next year draft, 1999, we all know this. They had one great draft pick, and probably the next bust on the list. So they had the 11th overall pick was Mr. Dante Culpepper, and then the second we'll come back to Culpepper. The second guy we're not going to spend any time on.
Demetrius Underwood.
It's sad that he had mental issues that he had. He probably could have been a great player if he didn't have the mental issues. But yeah, Demetrius
But here's the
Underwood.
thing about that, though. Denny Green knew this.
Well, he thought he could save him.
That's ego. Okay.
Yeah.
Denny Green knew this, and matter of fact, Michigan State told them, if you draft this guy, you're on your own.
Yeah.
And they were. I think the only other team that took a chance on him was Miami. And when he really went crazy in Miami, it was. I hope he's okay now. I know plenty of people that have had mental illness and schizophrenia. So
Yeah.
I hope he's okay now. And he wasn't the only one that had. Lonzo Spellman with the Bears had it also.
Yeah. He played for Minnesota, got cut. They went to the Dolphins. Then he played 2 years with the Cowboys.
Oh, that's right. He was a Cowboy. That's right.
And then he played in the CFL, Ottawa Renegades.
Okay. That's right.
He played under Nick Saban, and I think Nick Saban picked him up again. But I don't think Nick Saban was quarterback. But he played under Nick Saban at Michigan State.
Okay.
August 16th was waived by the Dolphins.
Oh, he had an episode with the Dolphins too. He slashed his arms pretty bad. He had a knife to his. He was at somewhere and he had a knife to his throat. And, he had a really bad meltdown. Yeah.
So starting in 2002, he served stints in the Dallas County Jail for aggravated robbery on a paraplegic driver, assaulted a police officer, and evaded arrest. He spent time in a closed custody cell. In February 2003, Underwood was transferred to the Justice Center for the next North Texas State Hospital. Then Underwood was arrested again for reason to get out of his stalled car on a highway. And then in 2007, he entered the Philadelphia Industrial Correction Center and left in 2011. So, yeah, if he wasn't mentally disturbed, he had the talent to be a great player. He was. They said his greatest thing was Underwood was tormented by the visions of an apocalypse. He used to write notes discussing the end of the world on pieces of paper the size of postage stamps. And when he was in normal state, he could be engaging in conversation, but he was funny, intelligent. He also exuded physical confidence and with extraordinary talent. Yes, he was those things, but his mental.
Denny couldn't fix that.
Yeah,
that was too much. That was too much.
He's luckily he's still with us, so hopefully he is doing much better in a mental state of mind. Hopefully, But so let's go back to Dante. Dante was the other pick in that first pick. If he doesn't get hurt, who knows what happens with Dante?
Yeah, he was a franchise quarterback.
Yeah,
he was a franchise quarterback. Came in 2000, lit it up. He was a rare breed. I mean, yeah, he did fumble a lot because he has small hands, but the kid could play. Yeah, so there was.
Yeah, he's definitely top 5 Viking quarterback of all time.
Yes, he is.
Where he's at on that list, that's up for debate, but he's definitely on that list.
Right. I got him ahead of Kirk.
And then some people would have Kirk higher, some people would have Dante higher.
Most people, a lot of people will have Kirk. I'm sorry, this fan base is so friggin' odd. There's people that have Kirk ahead of Tarkenton.
There's no way.
That's how delusional this base can be at times. It's when it comes to Kirk. They've got Kirk ahead of Tarkenton.
Yeah. So that's just insanity. So then Chris Hovan was the next pick.
2000.
Yep.
Yeah. He
It
got to
wasn't
play. He got to
What-
play with his idol John Randall for a year, but he wasn't very good. His only claim to fame was he narked on Mike Tice about the Super Bowl tickets.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, he was by 2004. Hovan was inactive for the games down the stretch. You know,
Then he went to Tampa Bay.
then he went to Tampa Bay, and then he went to the Rams. And I mean, he was a subpar player, not a bust, but very subpar.
Yeah.
Nothing to write home about.
And then the next 3 picks were pretty good picks. Michael Bennett in 2001.
Right.
Hold
Hold on.
Yeah.
Catch. Sarah, the Super Bowl tickets I'm talking about is the coaches, NFL personnel and coaches get Super Bowl tickets. And they can do it. They're not supposed to sell them.
Yeah.
But some of them do, and it's all on the down low. Well, Chris Hovan basically narked to the NFL front office about Mike Tice selling his Super Bowl tickets because he had an axe to grind with Mike Tice for benching him. So he figured, you know what? I'm going to leave the team anyway, and I'm going to get back at Mike Tice. So Mike Tice got in trouble for selling his Super Bowl tickets. And the only reason the league found out he sold those 2 Super Bowl tickets was because Chris Hovan told them about it.
Because he was spiteful.
He was spiteful. He was just being a little bitch. You know. But yeah, that's what that is.
So then
Now,
we got go ahead, sorry.
Michael Bennett. Now, Michael Bennett, the year that we drafted Michael Bennett, we needed a defensive back. And we thought, I was at that draft party, and we thought we were going to get a D-back because guess who is still there? Fred Smoot. So it's like, okay, they're going to draft Fred Smoot. They draft Michael Bennett. And at the time, we're like, well, Robert Smith did retire. So they're going to need a running back. Michael Bennett, 2 good years, and then was injury prone the rest of that time.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, he went to the Pro Bowl in 2002. And then he broke the record for longest run in team history, which was Clint Jones, the number 1 draft choice in 1967. Clint longest TD run was 80 yards. Michael Bennett's was 85 yards against Tampa Bay in 2002, but not much of a player. Didn't last long in the NFL.
Yeah, so the players taken after Michael Bennett, Reggie Wayne, Todd Heap. So those were the last 2 picks of the first round that year.
Right.
And of course, Drew Brees was taken in the 2nd round. That was a Michael Vick trade, Michael Vick draft. But Willie Middlebrooks from Minnesota was taken 3 picks before him.
Yeah, he went to Denver.
Yeah.
Middlebrooks.
So
Yeah,
And
so that was
Nate
not
Clem-
very good.
Nate Clemens was also, the best pick probably in that draft. Before Minnesota picked, was Vic, LaDainian Tomlinson, and Steve Hutcherson. Everybody else on this list was either okay or not very good.
Yeah.
So it was not a very good draft that year.
Wasn't a very good draft. And also one of the persons the Vikings drafted in that draft was Willie Howard.
Let's see.
Number 2. He was a number 2 draft pick. Yogi knows him real well.
From Stanford.
Yep. He was a number 2 pick, and I actually liked Willie Howard. I thought he was going to make it. I really did, because we needed a pass rusher at that time. So
you went to Stanford, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the next pick, the next 2 picks should be in the Hall of Fame, but they're not. They're not even in the Vikings Ring of Honor, which is the dumbest thing ever. I guess the first guy, maybe you could say the Love Boat kind of did him in, but Bryant McKinney was the next pick.
Brian McKinney held out. Brian McKinney, his rookie year, didn't play until the 8th game of the year.
Yeah, because he held out. Yeah,
He held out. And so
but he is a large human being.
right. And he did some stupid things himself. Who the hell gets kicked off the friggin' Pro Bowl team?
Yeah, was that when he threw the chair or somebody or something like that?
Something happened. He got kicked off the Pro Bowl team. Like, how much of an idiot do you have to be to get kicked off a Pro Bowl team? Come on.
Yeah, so it was a boat. It was a boat cruise scandal. We all know about the Vikings Love Boat.
The Love Boat, yeah, he was a part of that. But he he played in Pro Bowls and was an All Pro.
Yeah, 2008 nightclub scandal. McKinney was arrested and charged with aggravated battery, disorderly conduct, and resisted arrest without violence after a street brawl outside a club in Miami.
Oh, he had gotten in trouble up here too. He got in a fight up here
Yeah.
with a teammate after they left the club. I forget the teammate he got in a fight with, but it was a all-out brawl. And but I mean, he just and then he actually borrowed money from the NFL as a loan to help him with his recording studio and all that stuff, his recording company, and he was still paying that back when he won the Super Bowl. So with the Ravens.
Yeah.
So I mean, I give him his props, but he's ahead of Stussy. But as far as left tackles go, they don't even have Grady Alderman in the Ring of Honor, and he was an original Viking, and he played for 13 years. So, McKinney can wait.
And then the next pick should definitely be in the Hall of Fame or in the Ring of Honor. Kevin Williams, All Pro. He started out playing defensive end, though. We had him at defensive end. Yeah.
For the first five or six games of his rookie year, or most of the year, he was playing defensive end, and then they slowly moved him to D tackle because guess what? Chris Hovan wasn't playing well. That's why. So yeah, for Hall of Fame consideration, I'll put it this way, but this is me. You put Jim Marshall in the Hall of Fame before you put Kevin Williams in the Hall of Fame. That's just me.
Yeah.
But does Kevin Williams belong in the Hall of Fame? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. But I want Jim Marshall in there before Kevin Williams.
But that's still a mystery to me why he's not in there.
Right.
So the next three picks were all pretty much, two of the three were definitely bust. One because of a sickness. But the next three picks, 2004 was Kenechi Udeze.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he had cancer.
Yep. And then next 2005, that draft was a total bust. It was Troy Williamson and Erasmus James.
Yeah, that was bad.
That's probably the worst. That's probably the worst first round ever.
Yep, that was bad.
And then the next pick, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. I don't think he's an NFL Hall of Famer. He might be a Ring of Honor one day. But the next pick, 2006, was Chad Greenway.
Ring of Honor for sure. He's a Ring of Honor for sure. Plus, he's still around the team, so he's a Ring of Honor. And he didn't play his rookie year. He hurt his knee on a kickoff, and so he was out for the year
in preseason.
So,
and then we're not spending a lot of time on these modern players because a lot of people know about the modern players.
Yeah,
that's why we spend more time on the older players because people need to know about the older players. But the next guy, first ballot Hall of Fame, no doubt, Mr. Adrian Peterson.
Oh, definitely. Was Williamson a worse pick or Scene? They're right now neck and neck.
At least Williamson saw the field.
At least Williamson played. At least Williamson was on the field.
Yes.
Right now, Scene is heading into Leo Hayden territory. Is that bad of a pick?
And he is by far the worst Vikings draft pick ever.
Leo Hayden was the worst.
Yeah.
But yeah, who are we talking about?
Oh, we are talking
AP?
Adrian Peterson.
Nothing to say about him.
Yeah.
He's a Hall of Famer.
But just think that he was only a seventh. He was only the Vikings got lucky that year because if he didn't have the shoulder injury in college, he would have never made it to 7. Because the first year, the first pick in that draft was probably the biggest bust ever, Jamarcus Russell.
Oh, that's right. He was number 1. Yeah.
The next 2 guys drafted are Hall of Famers, Calvin Johnson and Joe Thomas.
Yep.
And then rest in peace. I think Gaines Adams is no longer with us.
Who is it? Who is it?
Gaines Adams from Clemson.
I don't know.
He was the pick by the 49ers.
Okay.
He did pass away. I thought he did.
Okay.
So, and then Levi Brown, he was a bust. And then Lon Landry was okay, but he got hurt. So those are the 6 picks before Adrian Peterson. So if he didn't have that injury, he probably goes 4 to Tampa Bay.
And the funny thing was, Chester Taylor had gained 1,000 yards the year before for the Vikings.
Yeah, that's BPA right there.
Yeah. Nothing to say about EP that hasn't been said. So
right.
First
ballot Hall of Famer, all that good stuff. They did not have a first round pick the next year.
That was traded away for Jared Allen.
Yep. And then 2009, I told Percy. His migraines ruined his career.
Yeah. Migraines and ego.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Migraines and ego, but what could have been.
Yeah.
We didn't have a pick in 2010, did we?
No, we had no pick in 2010.
Okay.
We should not have had one in 2011 either because we took Ponder.
Yeah, we took Ponder in 2011. Next.
2012. So this is the run of multiple first round picks. 2012 was Matt Khalil.
Good until an injury, and then he just lost interest.
Well, football was not his main.
Unlike
his brother, football was not his main concern.
Right.
The next guy is still on the team, Harrison Smith.
And he's definitely Ring of Honor. He might even be Hall of Famer.
I remember when he came out, all these people were saying, why they draft him? He sucked in college. And I'm, as someone who watches Notre Dame football, I'm like, what the hell are you guys talking about? He was not bad at college. No. He played linebacker. He played safety. So I don't know what you guys were talking about saying that he was bad. But he's still on the team, so that's definitely a good pick. He's definitely Ring of Honor. I do not think he's Hall of Fame, but he's definitely Vikings Ring of Honor.
Well, it depends on who the writers are voting. Yeah. So it all depends on them. And he's in the modern era, so yeah, he could be.
And then to 2013, they had 3 first-round picks. Okay. The first pick, what probably would have been good if he didn't get hurt, Sharif Floyd.
Okay, I got to stop you there because what a lot of people don't understand of what happened to Sharif Floyd.
What's Childress' fault?
The doctors botched his surgery.
That was Zimmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zimmer. The team doctors botched his surgery.
Yeah.
And he couldn't heal. And they botched his surgery, which ended his career. Yep. He lost out on millions of dollars because he was on his way.
Yeah, he was good before he got hurt.
He was good. But team doctors botched his injury.
And then Mike Zimmer made that stupid ass comment.
Yeah. Which one of many for Zimmer.
Yeah.
Then Xavier Rhodes.
Yep.
He was good.
Yeah.
He was good. I'm not going to take nothing away from Rhodes. Rhodes was the type of player, though, like later on, he would get burned, and then all of a sudden he'd get an injury. It's God.
Yeah. And then Cordell Patterson.
Who's still playing, by the way. He's still in Atlanta. Yep. It was the Vikings that started putting him in multiple positions.
Yep.
And he's been that way ever since. So Cordarrelle's falling out was with Zimmer because he just couldn't. He wanted him to play wide receiver, and he
couldn't run routes.
Couldn't run routes.
Yeah, Tennessee doesn't run that offense.
No, and so it was so.
And then 2014, they also had 2 first picks.
Yep.
Anthony Barr.
Barr was good. Barr was good when he wasn't hurt.
Yep. And then Teddy Two Gloves.
Teddy's the greatest mystery. We don't know what would have happened if his leg doesn't explode in practice.
Yeah.
I still don't understand that one, but
Yeah, I think he would still be our quarterback, to be honest with you.
he'd still be our quarterback, and Zimmer would still be our coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then 2015, Trey Waynes. And so we know about Trey Waynes.
Right.
He had his moments. The next pick is a bust, Laquan Treadwell, who's still in the league.
He was
Amazing.
and so I'm kind of wondering when we look at these guys and they're still in the league, like Cordero, like Laquan. Is that like that?
No, he's one of the greatest kick returners ever.
Yeah, he's got that definition, Sarah. One of the greatest kick returners.
Besides Devin Hester, I think he's second behind Devin Hester in everything.
And a lot of those kick returns he had was with us.
Yeah.
So he's not a bust. But here's the thing. Now, this is what we have to take in consideration. These guys are still in the league. Yeah. What the hell was going on with the Viking coaching staff that they couldn't get the field and they couldn't get them? There was something there.
Well, Laquan's in the league, but he doesn't play. But
he's still playing though.
Yeah.
Patterson is still playing.
Well, I don't think Trey Waynes is in the league.
Trey Waynes is out.
Yeah.
Trey Waynes. Matter of fact, I think Trey Waynes is doing the hunting thing now or something. There was a picture of him with a big game catch. Yeah. I saw it on Twitter. But yeah, he's out. He's out of football. And Trey Waynes was actually, I gave Trey Waynes credit because Trey Waynes would actually hit somebody.
Yeah.
But he would also get burned. And
I think he relied too much on his speed. That's why he got burnt.
Right. And I think also with a lot of those defensive players, they got sick of Zimmer.
Yeah.
I think that was a lot of
I do have respect for Waynes because he would come up and hit you.
Yeah. Oh, if you're going to play defense and hit somebody, I got nothing but respect for you, especially nowadays when nobody wants to hit anybody.
2017, no pick because that was the Bradford trade.
Yep.
The next pick is still in the league. These we're pretty much at the guys who are pretty much still in the league. The next pick is still in the league, but he's no longer a Viking. That's Mike Hughes, who had a great first game for Minnesota. We thought he was going to be great. Yeah. Then he got hurt.
And then and when he was a Viking, the game that sticks out, the Dallas game, Amari Cooper just put on a clinic on him.
Yeah.
He just lit him up. But he's still in the league.
Yeah.
I think he's down in Atlanta right now.
Yeah.
So he's still in the league. He still has a job.
And this next guy, he's got more back issues than a guy who doesn't have a back. He's still on the team. He still starts. He actually started Sunday. That's Garrett Bradbury.
Oh, we talking about the Stave Puff Marshmallow guy?
Yeah. 2019, pick 18.
Yeah. Next.
Well, we know who's next. The man who just got put on IR, Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
So another great pick, first-round pick.
Another great first-round pick. Now, if he comes back from this injury, hopefully this isn't a lingering injury, especially for the Vikings' sake.
Well, that's why I'm glad they put him on IR.
Yeah.
I think the Vikings know that this is a lost season, and you don't need your best player being hurt.
Right.
So
yeah, because they had a bunch of players in today for some reason. So I think they know this is a loss. They know this without telling us.
Yeah, they brought in another quarterback, I think.
Yeah, they brought in they let Tanner Morgan go. Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
They brought in Colt McCoy.
Yeah. So Nick Mullins must be hurt then. He must have hurt himself in practice.
I think Mullins is going on IR. But yeah, so they're basically telling us we're going to tank without telling us we're going to tank.
And then the next pick, rest in peace, buddy, man. You were good for a little bit, Jeff Gladney.
Jeff Gladney, yeah. He just he's young. He was young.
Yeah.
You know.
And so the next pick, already probably this guy has not allowed a pressure all year, and I think he only allowed 2 last year. He is by far and away someone you build this franchise around, along with Justin Jefferson, and that's Christian Darrisaw.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
he wasn't even considered the best tackle coming out, but he's done.
No, the one Rashawn Slater was considered better than him.
Was considered so, and I actually wanted Rashawn Slater over him because I fell into all the talk. I am damn sure glad that I didn't have to make that pick.
Yeah. The only knock that they had on Darrisaw was they knew he was going to have surgery.
Yeah,
That was the only knock on it. But
that was actually a pretty good draft because you got Trevor Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
So far, and then the two quarterbacks taken after him have been bust: Zach Wilson and Trey Lance. Then you got Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Penei Sewell. J.C. Horn is hurt, but he was doing good before he got hurt. Patrick Surtain, Devontae Smith, and then next quarterback taken was Justin Fields. So far that draft, I remember people wanted Elijah Vera Tucker, and he is not.
He's on IR now. He tore his Achilles or something.
So when you then this is when all the picks started getting bad, and then we got lucky with
Darrisaw fell because he had to have that surgery.
I'm glad. So taking a player with injury is not always a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, after Darrisaw, let's just say after Darrisaw, this guy is so far we got Tomlinson, we got Troy Williamson, we got Leo Hayden so far.
Demetrius Underwood.
Well, I'm not going to put Demetrius Underwood's different because of his mental, but yeah, he is a bust.
Still a bust.
And then let me see. So what's that? That's 3.
Yeah.
And then you have the other guy earlier that we talked about, Jerry Shea.
Jerry Shea, yeah, 4.
And then so that's 4. So right now, so when you look at the Vikings history, since 61, they've only had 4 what you would consider true bust.
Mm-hmm.
This next guy on the list is fastly becoming the 5th. And that's Lewis. That's Lewis Cine.
Yeah, that's Cine.
If he doesn't play this year, compared to what last year, he's a bust. He's the 5th. He's the 5th bust.
He's the best.
Yeah, and then the last pick has already proven to be better, and that's Jordan Addison. We'll see. Well, we've with JJ being hurt, we get to see how good Jordan Addison really is now.
Now this is where Addison can prove if he's a 1 or if he's a 2.
Yep.
He was drafted. Many teams would have drafted Addison to be a 1.
Yeah.
So, and he has that possibility to be a 1. He's just got to
get bigger, and he's got to get bigger.
Yeah. He's got to get bigger, and don't block because you can't.
Yeah.
But he can. I mean, he's a precise route runner.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. He will definitely, hopefully take some passes from KJ Osborne, who can't catch it all this year. I don't know.
Cousins kept hitting him and TJ in the wrong spot, their hands.
And if I'm a quarterback, I get frustrated by that. I was like, why do I want to keep throwing you the ball?
Cousins is like, I get killed enough in this town already. I don't need you all dropping passes on me.
Right. It's just kind of like you're not helping the cause. Well,
yeah.
TJ got paid and now he's got lazy. Let's just put that in there.
His hands hurt carrying the bag. It's heavy.
Yeah, no shit. That earache cleared up real quick though.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that earache cleared up real quick.
So Sarah, this show was for you.
Yes, it was. This was all you, Sarah.
Yeah, this was all you. We appreciate you giving us the idea.
And I had to do a lot of thinking because I forgot about a lot of those guys.
Yeah. I'm glad I did some research and pulled up the resources for that to help.
Right.
I think by saying the name and that kind of jogged your memory.
Right.
But yeah, I think we're changing our time. I think we're going to be doing 6:30 on Tuesdays from now on. Is that going to be a good time for you, Sarah? You're like the most loyal of this person that we have that watches this
Let
show.
us know in the chats, everyone, and give us ideas. Give us a ton of ideas because we've got a ton. But we're all over the place with our ideas.
Yeah.
So we kind of got it. I mean, we could bounce.
We didn't even think about doing this show that we did tonight. First round pick, Sarah. That was a fantastic idea. We appreciate it. We had other ideas, but this was better than the ideas we had.
Right.
So that's why we went ahead and did this one.
And this was probably more informative than one we
Yes.
probably would have did, because a
Yeah.
lot of people don't know our draft choice, our number one draft choice history.
Right.
So to go in and actually tell how these guys played, we've got a lot of great guys that were number one draft choices and Hall of Famers and everything else.
And we spent more time on the older guys because a lot of people don't know about the older guys. That's why we kind of blew through the newer guys, because everybody knows about the newer guys.
Yeah, that's just
So
everything after Randy Moss, everybody should know about.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
We do not have the show for next week set up. We have ideas. See, that's the thing is, our show, we wanted to do the show 8, but then we realized that rap was on at 8. Then we're like, we're talking. The very first show we did was 5:30, but no one showed up for that. So we're kind of stuck with the time.
Unless we change our date.
Unless we change our day. But we can't do Tuesdays because we can't do Wednesdays because everybody and their brother does a Viking show on Wednesday. There's like 13 Viking shows on Wednesday, as you guys know.
Right.
We do have a bi-weekly show we do on Thursdays. That's the status of the NFC North. So Monday or Friday would probably be the only night we probably have. But GG do a show on Mondays as well. So it's hard for us. That's why this show kind of needs to have its own time, but we need to figure out what time that would be. But we'll figure that out.
Yeah, we're still in the planning stages, but at least we're putting it out there so people know that there is a show like this.
Yes.
And no, we answered that question.
Yeah.
So with this, I mean, because like everybody else is talking about the current Viking situation, so we're talking more about the history, and the history kind of leads up into the current situation because it's all connected.
Yeah.
So we're kind of giving a different set of eyes on the team, a different perspective, and kind of like a learning process, because a lot of people don't know this.
Yeah.
I'm one of the few that still remember a lot of it. There's a lot of people my age that are still with us, fortunately, that remember it. But it's kind of we're kind of like a dying breed, literally. We are.
Yeah.
So we got to put it out there that there was life on this team. There was a Viking team before Randy Moss, put it that way.
Well, so far, Kwesi has probably got the worst record of drafting.
Right now, Kwesi is terrible. Kwesi is terrible. It's only 2, but the 2 are just glaringly.
Well, his first year is a complete bust.
His first year is a complete
unless Ingram can somehow figure it out, which I'm beyond that. But his first year is a bust. His second year, Addison.
You know how you figure it out with Ingram is run the damn ball.
Yeah.
If he's probably, like most linemen, I've said this before, are better moving forward than backwards, and that's probably the case with Ingram. So basically, if you want that offensive line to look good, run the ball. You've got running backs. Use them. Run the ball. Take pressure off your quarterback. It's not rocket science. And I know a lot of people are giving KOC a pass and all that. No, I'm not. I'm not giving him a pass. You took this job.
This team is soft.
Yeah, you took this job thinking that you could do something with Kirk that hasn't been done before. Well, you ain't doing nothing. This team is very soft. And this is the first time in Viking history that the offensive and defensive lines have looked as bad as they are. First time. And the lines and the offensive line in the 70s got a lot of heat because they couldn't run block, they said. But this current line outside with the tackles, it's not good.
Yeah.
and defensive line, forget it. We don't even have a defensive line.
When,
Basically,
when Bullard is your best interior tackle,
that's
you
not
have
saying
issues.
nothing. That's oh my God.
So we appreciate everybody coming. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe. Please spread the word about this channel because there is no other channel about this. Tell your friends about it.
Yep.
We really, 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 really want this show to kick off because people really need to know about the history of this franchise.
Right. And give us your ideas.
Yes, give us your ideas. Yep.
Whether it be a season, a player, a situation, a game, I'll probably
Yeah.
remember it. Maybe.
Yeah.
We're open to any type of discussion. We do look at your comments.
Yeah.
And we answer them when we see them. So
Well, Sarah, tonight's proof. We did Sarah's idea.
yeah, this was Sarah's show.
Yeah.
This was Sarah's
So,
show. So thank you, Sarah, for the idea.
Yes, because I think we were going to do stadiums. I think.
We were going to do stadiums.
Yeah.
Yeah,
His-
we were going to
the
do
three-
stadiums.
The 3 stadiums, the 4 stadiums that they've played in.
Yeah.
And then,
But,
we might do We'll definitely do a stadium show.
mhm.
That'll probably be our quickest show that we do.
Yeah.
We'll get the time. We will get with everybody who's in the network, and we'll get the time figured out for this show because we want everybody who's in the network to watch this show. So we do appreciate everybody who does come to this show. It's the same people every week. We really appreciate it. Like I said, we'll get the time figured out, and we will let you. I will let everybody know in the other shows that I'm on. I will get the word out about what our topic is going to be next week.
Right.
So
Skol Vikings, let's win this game. Skol Vikings, honor your name. Go get that first down, then get a touchdown. Rock 'em, sock 'em, fight, 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 fight.